Okay, guys, real quick, before we get into this episode, we want to let you know what you're about to hear. Now, every year for our other brands, we do what we call a summer freelance summit. We bring in some really fantastic experts to talk about all kinds of interesting and important topics. And we thought, hey, this is great content. We should be sharing this with our Energize Your Online Business audience as well. So we called through, picked out some really fantastic episodes, and that is what you're about to hear.
Yeah. And if you hear the term freelancer or freelancing, that's because it's part of our freelance summit. But know that these topics are just as applicable to business owners of all kinds, not just our freelancing friends.
Mm-hmm. This is some really, really good stuff. We're sure you can enjoy it. So stay tuned. Our first speaker is Tara Bianca. And Tara, I'm going to go ahead and read your bio because it's a good one. Tara Bianca has been a holistic health practitioner for 20 years. She is the owner of BE Light Transformative Therapy, an online holistic health company specializing in therapeutic breathwork, bodywork, mindset, and sound healing. Her primary focus is educating and coaching people to change the quality of their breathing to powerfully improve the quality of their lives. She is passionate about building a global community that is dedicated to achieving optimal health and wellness for people and for planet as holistically as possible. So she's going to take us through breathing techniques to improve our focus, our efficiency, and our overall well-being. And I will just say as an aside, one of the things that I'm so excited about is every time I've worked through Tara's stuff and read her marketing pages, she always talks about like everything we think we know about breathing is wrong. And even when we're trying to do it right, we're usually doing it wrong. So I think we all really need to pay attention to this one.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so welcome to Breathing Techniques to Improve Your Focus, Your Efficiency, and Your Overall Well-Being. We're going to cover 3 main goals today. So what are those goals? Number 1, I want to show you the best way to breathe to get more oxygen to your brain in order to improve cognition, clarity, and focus. And then we're going to briefly go over the 3 main pillars of functional breathing that will instantly improve your performance, both mental and physical. And then as long as we have time, I really want to try to get through these 4 simple breathing techniques for managing stress, for focusing your mind, for nailing your pitches, and for finding true relaxation. So I'm going to start with a question to the group. So Kate, I'll need you to monitor the chat for this one. I want to start with a question. Can you breathe too much? And if so, how much breathing is the right amount of breathing? So in the chat, give me a yes or a no. Can you breathe too much? What do you think? And then Kate, you can kind of tell me as they start to filter in what we're seeing.
A lot of yeses immediately without, that was my gut response too. So I'm with, yes, a lot of hyperventilating. Krista and Amy mentioned hyperventilating. Yep. Yes. Like,
great.
yeah.
Okay, perfect. You guys might not even need this presentation. This is awesome. I'm glad to see so many yeses. But I know that this recording is going to go out to a lot more people too. So let me do my little talk anyway, just to get us on the same page, because this idea of how much breathing is the right amount is actually not so easy to answer. And so the way I usually like to go about it is that I like to compare it to eating, because I think that's a simpler concept to get our heads around. So go ahead in the chat and tell me what it feels like to overeat. Like the last time you ate way too much. Give me some adjectives that describe the feeling in your mind, in your body, in your soul. What does that feel like to overeat like that? Give me some words.
We're getting bloated, pain, sleepy, uncomfortable, a lot of bloated, regret, sluggish.
Right. Definitely.
Sleepy, heavy feeling.
Yeah. Pain, discomfort, right? All of those things. And I think we can also agree as a general society that too much eating long-term, overeating chronically like that, makes us susceptible to all these horrendous things, right? These bad outcomes of obesity, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The point being, more is not always better, right? This is a long roundabout way of saying more is not better. More is definitely not better when it comes to our eating. I think we've all viscerally experienced that. And more is also not better when it comes to our breathing. So I want to introduce this concept to you today that there is such a thing as over breathing, and it is just as detrimental to your health long-term as overeating. So let's break this down a little bit. What does it mean to over breathe? So most simply, it means to breathe too much. But what does that mean? So it means you're breathing more than what your cells metabolically require in any given moment. So remember, we're breathing in order to produce energy. That's really at the core why we're breathing in the first place. But we can breathe more than what our cells can actually utilize. And if we want to quantify this, we would say that at rest, as we are right now, seated at our computers, there's no major stressors coming at us, we would want our resting respiratory rate to be in the range of 10 to 12 breaths per minute, maybe 10 to 14 breaths per minute. The problem is that many of us are breathing way more than this, and it's happening below our conscious awareness. We're not even aware that we are doing it. And so we have a name for this, and I think Kate said that some people dropped this in the chat already. We call this mild chronic hyperventilation. And so I think when some of us think hyperventilation, we think, right? We think this big gasping breath, which it is. That's an extreme case of hyperventilation. But you can also have a very mild form of hyperventilation, which is what a lot of us are doing throughout the day without even having awareness that we are doing it. So what are the consequences of this mild chronic hyperventilation? And specifically, what are the consequences in reference to what we're talking about today? What are the consequences for our focus, for our efficiency, for our performance, and for our overall well-being? So there's a lot of consequences actually throughout the body and throughout the mind, but I want to focus on 3 main consequences today, just so we can really hone the conversation. So consequence number 1, mild chronic hyperventilation, so long-term overbreathing, keeps us stuck in this chronic sympathetic state or this fight or flight activation. So drop a 1 in the chat if you are familiar with this term of fight or flight and sympathetic nervous system, just so I know we're on the same page. And Kate, you can just tell me if a lot of 1s are coming into the chat or not.
Number of 1s. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Rapid fire 1s.
Perfect. That's what I like to see. Yeah, this is pretty hip and in the consciousness at this point, I think. So how does this impact us as freelancers, though? Like, where does this come into play? How does it manifest in our lives and in our work and in our performance? So when we're stuck in the state of fight or flight all the time, this could manifest as my mind is going in a million different directions, or you never complete your to-do list, or you feel like there's never enough time, you can't turn your brain off. Often this manifests as anxiety, mental anxiety and or social anxiety. You might even be aware that you have this elevated heart rate, or you might even be aware that your blood pressure is feeling higher. Poor sleep, right? You can't turn the brain off. You're thinking constantly, foggy thinking. Or this could also be the person who's always sick, right? They're the first one to get sick, and then they just get over something, and then they're sick again. They have this really overactive immune response. So go ahead and drop a 1 in the chat again if you've experienced any of these symptoms. And then go ahead and drop a 2 in the chat if you experience all of these symptoms. And let me just get a sense of if people are relating to this or not.
We got some 1s. We got a mix of 1s and 2s. 4 2s from someone. So we got a heavy 2.
3.
Right. So this is something that starts to cue you in. Like, what is my breathing doing? How is it impacting these other areas of my life? Okay, great. So some people can relate to this for sure. Awesome. Let's go into main consequence number 2. Bronchoconstriction, or what I'm going to call the breathing paradox. And I'm going to explain that in just a second. So what does this mean? Bronchoconstriction is just a fancy word to say that your airways constrict or your airways shut down. So this is a really strange idea. We're taking in more air. We're taking in bigger volumes of air, or we're breathing more frequently. But because we're breathing more than what our cells metabolically require, our body can't utilize the air we're taking in. And so the oxygen never actually gets taken up, and it never gets distributed to our cells. And we just wind up recycling this air back out. So we're wasting all this energy over breathing, and we're not even accomplishing the goal of breathing, which is to get oxygen to our cells. The cells don't get enough oxygen to produce energy. And so this is a completely inefficient system, right? I think we could all agree on that. So this physiological inefficiency translates into mental inefficiency as well. So this is very much that mind-body connection. As we start to have things kind of dysfunctioning in our physiology, in our physical body, this really easily translates into our thinking, the quality of our thoughts, how we're feeling, how we're interpreting the world around us and what people are saying to us, and how we're perceiving the world and how we're showing up. So this is really a big deal. What is happening in our physiology determines how we show up in life, how we show up in our presentations, how we show up with our clients at work, etc. And there's sort of this paradox of overbreathing then, which we need to be aware of. And that is that you're breathing in more air, but you're actually getting less oxygen into your body. So again, completely inefficient, and we really have to address it if that is an issue for you. Okay, third consequence. vasoconstriction plus no signal to release oxygen. O2 is oxygen, by the way. Okay, so what does this mean? Vasoconstriction is a really fancy word that means that your blood vessels constrict. Well, what's the consequence of that? When your blood vessels shut down, you're getting poor blood flow and poor oxygen flow, particularly to these vital areas of your body. Think your heart and your brain. So how do you think you're going to feel if your heart and your brain are not getting blood flow and they're not getting oxygen flow? You're going to feel horrible, right? You're going to feel exhausted. You're going to feel fatigue. Your thinking is going to be really foggy. This is the time, and this is really important for us, where you're going to be more prone to making errors, silly little errors. You're going to be more prone to confusion. You're going to not be able to articulate your ideas to people as clearly, and you're not going to be able to present your information and your ideas effectively. So this is a big deal. And then as a consequence also, by the way, your digestion completely shuts down. And then what is this part about no signal to release oxygen? Well, this is a really critical aspect of breathing that most of us get wrong. So CO2, carbon dioxide, is a main signaling molecule in your body. So most of us think of CO2 as this off gas, as this byproduct of breathing that we have to expel from the body. But CO2 actually serves a lot of really positive functions in the body. When we overbreathe, we blow off too much CO2. And when that CO2 isn't present in the body in large enough quantities, our red blood cells, that's what RBC is, our red blood cells never get the message to release oxygen into the system. So we have really poor oxygen distribution, which means very poor energy production, which means fatigue, foggy thinking, all these things I just said. So what is the answer? The secret is to breathe less, not more. Less is good. Less is good for eating and less is good for breathing. In fact, less is one of the 3 pillars of functional breathing that I'm about to introduce to you. Okay, so we have these 3 pillars of functional breathing: slow, deep, and less. And let's talk a little bit about how those interact in the body. How do those show up in the body when we achieve them? So when we slow down our breathing, we slow down our nervous system. We get out of that fight or flight mode and we get more into rest and digest mode. And wherever our physiology goes, our mind follows. So as we slow down our breath, we slow down our nervous system, which in turn slows down our mind, and it enhances our focus. It allows us to get really clear on the task at hand. Then we have deep. So now we're taking these slow breaths, which means the breath also has time to travel deeper into our lungs. And the deeper we get into the lungs, the more we make contact with our little air sacs, which are called alveoli. These are the little guys that are in charge of gas exchange. So as we breathe deeply, now we're getting better oxygen uptake into the body and better oxygen distribution around the body. And then less. Less also means that we are calming the nervous system, calming the mind. And when we breathe less, we're better mitigating our CO2 levels in our body. And so there's enough CO2 to signal our red blood cells to release oxygen efficiently. So this slow, deep, less becomes an efficient system. And that physiological efficiency starts to translate to mental efficiency. Now, there is a 4th pillar here as well. But in my circles, it's so obvious to us that sometimes we don't think of it as a pillar. We just think of it as like a given. But the 4th pillar then is nasal. So it's really important that you were focusing on nasal breathing at all times. This is the physiological design of the human body. This is the way we're meant to be breathing. So for all the exercises I'm going to introduce to you today, I'm going to have you focus on breathing in and out through your nose. We're not going to breathe through our mouths at all. The lips are going to stay gently closed. Tongue is going to be making gentle contact with the roof of the mouth. Whew. Okay, I think that's the whole spiel. Are you guys ready to jump into some exercises? Okay, so our first exercise is called mini breath holds. This is a really nice exercise that's good across the board for everybody. The purpose of this exercise is to calm the nervous system and calm the mind, like we were just talking about. And again, where your physiology goes, your mind will follow. So I wanted to make sure you guys have ways of applying this in your workday. So when would you apply this? These mini breath holds are a great quick thing that you can do for maybe 3 to 5 minutes between meetings. They're a really nice reset for the body and for the mind. These are great as a recovery after talking or presenting for a long time. So this is something I might do when I get off of this talk today, right? When we talk a lot, we tend to not regulate our breathing so well, and we can be really tired after talking all day. This is a nice recovery breath. whenever your mind starts racing in a million different directions, this helps you, again, to get back into your body and get out of the racing thoughts. It also helps you to get into present moment awareness. Okay, so to guide you guys through this, I'm going to come out of screen share, and then I'll come back into screen share to introduce the next exercise, and we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit. Okay, so this first exercise is called mini breath holds. I'm going to demo it one time, and then we'll practice it together for about 2 or 3 minutes. So don't freak out if the first couple you don't get them right. This is not about perfection. This is about exploration today, right? It's a first exposure. Just keep moving along with me, and eventually you'll get it. So the way we do this is you're going to take a normal quiet breath in and out through your nose. What's a normal quiet breath? It looks like this. So no big deal. No, right? No big gasping breaths. Really quiet. In, out. You're going to pinch your nose. We're going to hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're going to release your nose. Keep your lips closed. And we're going to do 2 quiet, gentle breaths together. I'll count for us so that we stay on the same page. We're going to repeat this for about 2 or 3 minutes. So you ready to give it a try? Here we go. You're going to take a normal quiet breath in and out through your nose. You're going to pinch your nose and hold after the exhale. Good. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep your lips closed. Release your nose and take a nice, slow, gentle breath in through your nose. Feel it deepen into your lungs. And then take a nice, slow breath out through your nose. Good. And one more breath like that. Take a nice slow breath in through your nose. Good. And take a nice slow exhale out through your nose. And we'll do another mini breath hold. Take a normal quiet breath in and out through your nose. Pinch your nose and hold. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release your nose. Keep your lips closed and breathing in. Feel the breath traveling deep into your lungs. You can use some imagery if it helps you. And exhaling out slowly through your nose. And as you exhale, see if you can relax your shoulders more, breathing in through your nose. Good. And breathing out through your nose, making sure those shoulders are down away from the ears. Good. Let's do another breath hold. Take a normal quiet breath in and out through your nose. Pinch your nose and hold. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release your nose and breathing in right away, slowly, deeply, quietly. No big deal. And exhale out through your nose, slowly and quietly. And breathe in through your nose, slowly and quietly. And breathe out through your nose, slowly and quietly. Let's do 3 more of these. So take a normal quiet breath in and out through your nose. Pinch your nose and hold. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release your nose right away. Breathing in slowly, gently, quietly through your nose. And exhaling out slowly and quietly. Good. And breathing in slowly and quietly. And exhaling out slowly and quietly. We'll do 2 more of these mini breath holds. Take a normal quiet breath in and out through your nose. Pinch your nose and hold. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release your nose. And breathing in quietly, gently, softly. And breathing out quietly, gently, softly. And breathing in quietly, gently, and softly. And breathing out quietly, gently, softly. Let's do 1 more mini breath hold. Take a normal quiet breath in and out through your nose. Pinch your nose and hold. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release your nose. 2 breaths. Breathing in softly, quietly, gently through your nose. And exhaling out softly, quietly, and gently. And breathing in softly, quietly, gently. Good. And breathing out softly, quietly, gently. Great. Okay, and take a little break. Go ahead and put in the chat how you're feeling right now. If it had any impact, maybe it didn't have any impact, that's okay too. Again, it's first exposure, so it's a bit of an experiment, and we're also kind of rushing the process a little today just to expose you. But give me some feedback in the chat, adjectives. How do you feel from that?
Sleepy, relaxed.
Okay, great, good. Nobody is feeling stressed from that exercise, most importantly though, right? We're feeling okay? Okay. I'll introduce the second exercise to you guys. Okay, so the next one is a 4x4 box breath. Now, box breathing is very popular. Put a 1 in the chat if you have ever practiced box breathing in your entire life. And then Kate, just let me know if people have already practiced this.
We got some ones, and we actually have a question earlier about box breathing. So
perfect.
People who are definitely aware of this.
Okay, so this one is really the optimal breathing exercise for what we call calm focus, meaning it really helps to calm the physiology and focus the mind. But box breathing tends to not make people so sleepy. So the one we just did, you might have been feeling a little bit more sleepy. I think the box breathing will help to calm your mind without kind of knocking you out, which is a nice quality. This helps us to prepare more for stressful events, or for, again, like big presentations or big pitches that you have to do, important events where you might feel a lot of anxiety. This is a good one to do maybe 5 or 10 minutes before those situations. This is also famously used by the Navy SEALs. So if it's good enough for the Navy SEALs, it's definitely good enough for us. So when would you apply this? This is whenever you're feeling like really fidgety or a lot of nervous energy during the day. Again, this is calm focus, right? As preparation for an extended period of focus. So maybe you know you have a long day of one client after another and you don't have any major breaks and you've got to like be on all day, right? This is a good one to do before you get started with your day. Or maybe you know you're going to be on the computer for 10 or 12 hours and you're like, ugh, how am I going to do this? This is a good exercise to do before you get into that technical abyss, right? Before an important meeting or presentation, like I already said. And then because we're talking about calm focus here, this is one where I would really invite you to play with your eyes. So usually when we're doing our breathing exercises, it feels good to close the eyes and go internal, and that feels very nourishing and calming. But when we want to still remain somewhat alert and aware of our surroundings, you can actually practice this breathing exercise with the eyes open, but not staring, right? So open, looking on the horizon, and I would invite you to take a soft gaze, kind of a diffuse gaze of your entire environment. So don't hyper focus on one point. When we take this soft, expansive gaze, it actually helps to activate more of a parasympathetic response in the body. So let me come out of screen share again, and I'm going to do this one with you. Okay, and then to also get that quality of deep, right? That was one of our pillars that we were talking about. I'm going to have us put our hands on our rib cage for this exercise. So it's going to, let me find a better spot here. Okay, so you're going to have your hands on your ribs, and I want you to give a little inward pressure onto the ribs, almost as if you had like a resistance band or a tight belt on your rib cage. Give a little bit of pressure. And so we're going to breathe in and out through our nose the whole time. You're going to breathe in for a count of 4. And as I breathe in for a count of 4, can you see my ribs are pushing my hands out to the side? You're going to hold your breath for a count of 4. And then as you exhale out for 4, you're going to use your hands to guide your ribs back in, and you're going to hold your breath for a count of 4. So we're going to do this together again for about 2 or 3 minutes and just get a sense of how you're feeling. This one, I would invite you to keep your eyes open with that soft focus like we were just saying. So hands on the ribs, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and in. Expand the ribs. Push your hands out and hold, 2, 3, 4, and out. Use your hands to let your ribs come back in and hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Ribs are expanding slowly. And hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. Let your ribs relax back. And hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, pushing your hands out to the sides. And hold, 3, 4, and out. Push your ribs back in. And hold, 2, 3, 4, and in. Let your ribs expand and hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. Let your ribs come back in and hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Ribs are expanding and hold, 2, 4. Breathe out. Use your hands to guide your ribs back in and hold, 2. Let's do another minute. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, ribs expanding, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, ribs relaxing, and hold. 2, 3. 2 more times. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3. Last time. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Good. Relax your arms back down by your side. And again, in the chat, go ahead and tell me what was different this time. Are people still feeling relaxed and drowsy? Do you feel a little bit more alert when you're doing this exercise? Let me have a little feedback of what this was like for you. Do you feel the breath going deeper when you have your hands on your ribs?
More alert, less sleepy. I know Alyssa said she used this during labor, so that's another selling point.
That's a course in and of itself, that one. Mm-hmm.
Alert, deeper breaths. Realize posture's terrible. I feel that, Amy. I agree. Every time sitting up straight. Deeper, less drowsy, but good.
Great. Perfect.
The focus required. Yeah. Aware of my hands. I can feel the breath.
Great. Yeah. And so now remember, so I'm giving you a particular intention for each of these breathing exercises. But if you don't get that exact result today, it's not the end of the world, right? Like there's lots of ways that the breath can be modified for your particular needs. So again, I just invite you to explore a little bit today, and then we can always make modifications later. All right. So this next one is one of my favorites. I should have been a little bit more user-friendly. This one does come with a couple contraindications, but I wanted to share it anyway because it's very powerful, and I think it can be a really good tool to have in your toolbox. So this is called the nose-unblocking exercise. It is not a sexy name, but this is good for a quick 1-minute preparation before performance, before having to do a pitch, before having to do a presentation, before having to get on a client call or whatever it is. The added benefit of this one is that it totally decongests your nose. So who in the group gets a lot of like sinus congestion or has allergies or anything like that? Go ahead and put a 1 in the chat if that's something that you experience regularly.
We're getting some 1s for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you guys already know this. The people who experience a lot of sinus congestion already know this, but there's actually studies that show people with chronic sinusitis, chronic sinus inflammation wind up going to the doctor, not because of the congestion. It's because this is destroying their quality of life. They can't breathe, they can't sleep, they can't think clearly, they're uncomfortable, right? All this stuff that's going on in their head is not operating properly. So this is an awesome exercise, even if you don't have chronic sinusitis, for opening up the airways and opening up the space in which you can breathe and in which your brain can actually function, right? This really helps us to get a burst of oxygen to the brain. So when would you apply this? Right before an important event, presentation, pitch, call, like we just said. This is like a last-ditch effort. Like you don't have any other time to prepare mentally or physiologically. It's like you could do this one thing. It takes about 30 to 60 seconds, and then you're done. If you're waking up in the morning and you're super groggy, you're feeling really sleepy, you can't get out of bed, you're like, oh, I don't want to start this day. This is a great one to take you out of that sleepy nervous system and start to wake you up and bring you into the world. And then as an added bonus, like I said, this is unblocking your nose when your sinuses are congested. The 3 contraindications for this one. This is the maximum breath hold we're going to practice, maximum to your comfort level. This is not good for people who are pregnant. So any of my pregnant ladies, I'm going to ask you just to sit this one out for today. You can do it after you have your baby. Anyone with any kind of serious cardiovascular stuff or high blood pressure that's unchecked, definitely no strong breath holds for you guys. And anyone who already knows that they have extreme anxiety, kind of borderline panic disorder, this one is not going to feel good to you. You're going to feel like you're suffocating, quite honestly. So don't do this one if you are one of those 3 categories. Everyone else, we can explore and experiment today. That's not to scare anyone. It just is what it is. So, Okay, are we ready? This is how you do it. We start the same way as our mini breath holds, but this is a maximum breath hold. So I'm going to ask that you make sure you're seated for this and that your surroundings are safe. I promise you won't black out. You're going to be monitoring yourselves, but it is a maximum breath hold. So be a little careful and gentle with yourselves today. Don't do it yet. Just listen. You take a normal quiet breath in and out through your nose. You pinch your nose and hold. My lips are closed. And I just keep holding my breath. And I just keep holding my breath. And I just keep holding my breath. To help distract myself from the discomfort of the breath hold, because it will start to get uncomfortable, you can gently start to move your head in all directions. And for those of you who have sinus congestion, this also helps to really open up the nasal passage. So as you're doing this breath hold, you can really gently take your head through different ranges of motion when you can't hold your breath any longer. So everyone's going to be on their own clock here, right? And I'll just go to the person who finishes last. When you can't hold anymore, release your nose, but this is the rule. No gasping for air, right? Keep the lips closed and try to get control of your breathing right away. So I've been holding. I can't hold my breath any longer. I release. And I try to slow down that initial inhale as much as I can. And I try to slow down that initial exhale as much as I can. Okay, makes sense? If the first time's a disaster, it's fine. We can always revisit this exercise another time, but let's play with it and see what happens. So I'm going to start us together. And then whenever you finish, you get control of your breathing right away. And we'll wait for the last person who I can see on the screen to finish. All right, whenever you're ready, take a normal quiet breath in and out through your nose. Pinch your nose and hold. Good. And then just settle into your body. Try to relax your body. Get your shoulders down away from your ears. Get really comfortable. Let yourself feel heavy and falling towards the earth. And then if you want, you could start to take your head through gentle ranges of motion. Good. Keeping the lips closed. It helps sometimes if you keep contact with your tongue on the roof of your mouth. Then moving your head in all directions, trying to dump all the mucus out of the nasal passage. The more we hold our breath, the more our nasal cavity opens up. Good. Whenever you finish your breath hold, some of you are going to go for a minute or more, especially if we have competitive people in here. Good. Keep the mouth closed. Whenever you finish your breath hold, keep the mouth closed. Get control of your breathing right away. We still have a couple people going, I think. Yep. Good. We'll wait for the last person. The rest of you breathing in slowly, deeply, gently. Feel the nice. Very nice, Karen. Super impressive. Great job. Is that everybody? Let me just scan through. Awesome. Okay. And just take a couple breaths now slowly in through the nose, deepening the breath, feeling it travel deep into the lungs. And let's take one exhale together, letting the breath leave your body really slowly, gently, easily. Okay. So put in the chat a couple descriptors. What was that experience like?
Laura's doing this in a coffee shop. So go, Laura, for doing this in a coffee shop.
Yeah, bonus points, Laura.
Bonus. I love that.
More control, ear pops, that's
like
for sure. Mm-hmm. I feel less stuffed. Yeah, this is a unbelievable one. So when you actually do get sick and you do have the chronic sinusitis, or when people have seasonal allergies, this is an awesome tool. Help the beginners of my runner's high. Wide awake.
Competitions in the pool, Amy, I relate to that. I think that's what I've learned. I held my breath a lot in the pool as a kid.
Right, exactly. But we stopped doing it as adults. We don't usually have the occasion to hold our breath like that. But all of us, if we had access to a pool as a kid, me and my brothers, we were always doing breath holding competitions for sure. Oh. I feel ready for something. Not sure what yet.
Love it. So good. Tara, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Awesome. Super excited. Thanks for tuning in. Do you want to learn how to sell and scale your offer on autopilot every single day without the chaos of live launching or the low conversions of Evergreen? Who doesn't, right? Get our free on-demand video training at circuitsalessystem.com/free. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to make sure you never miss a video. We'll catch you next time.